Sometimes the most profound stories aren't in books. They're quietly unfolding all around us, in nature. Today, we're going to look at one of those stories, one that has a lot to teach us about strength, patience, and just presence. So let's dive into the life of the Freesia and see what it can show us about unseen growth.
Have you ever walked into a room and just known a Freesia was there, even before you saw it? You don't see it, you experience it. That fragrance, it just fills the space, announcing itself in this gentle but absolutely undeniable way. It's a scent that really does speak before a single word is uttered. And that right there brings us to our first big idea. With the Freesia, its influence starts with scent, not with sight. It's not about shouting with bright colors, demanding that you look at it. It's about an essence that quietly but completely changes the atmosphere of whatever space it's in. And here's where you see this beautiful paradox, right? On one hand, you have this flower that's so delicate in its structure, so elegant, it almost looks fragile. But then that's paired with a fragrance that is so rich and pervasive. It's this powerful presence in a gentle form. It fills the room, but it never ever overpowers it. So you have to wonder, how can something so delicate have such a profound impact? Well, that brings us to the real secret. Its strength is all happening beneath the surface. The magic isn't in what you can see, it's in what you can't. And this is it right here. The Freesia grows from something called a corm. The easiest way to think of it is like a little underground battery pack. It's a powerhouse, just packed with all the nutrients and energy that plant is going to need to eventually just flourish above ground. So here's the point, and it's so important. What is rooted in the unseen produces a beauty that you just can't ignore. That delicate stem, those vibrant petals that we all admire, they're completely supported by a hidden foundation. All the deep, essential work happens in the dark, underground. Okay, so how does all that hidden strength actually turn into visible beauty? Well, the growth itself is a huge lesson in patience. This is not some overnight explosion of color. It's more like a slow procession, a gradual and very ordered journey. And this journey is mapped out right here. It all starts with that buried corm, that whole season of hidden preparation. Then, finally, you see the first sign of life, that slender little shoot pushing through the soil. After that, the buds start to form, gathering up all that stored up potential. And then at last you get the bloom, where each flower opens one by one, in sequence, right up the stem. This quote just nails that idea perfectly. Growth is not always simultaneous. Maturity comes in sequence. The Freesia is like this living, breathing reminder that real, lasting beauty isn't rushed. It's almost always the result of a patient, step-by-step process. And all of this quiet, steady nature, it creates what you could call a ministry of presence. It's this profound way the flower impacts its entire environment, not by doing anything, but just by being exactly what it was made to be. And when you think about it, there are really two ways of being in the world, aren't there? You can spend your life chasing attention, being loud, working so hard to make sure you get noticed. Or you can be like the Freesia. You can focus on emitting an essence, just passively influencing the world around you because of who you are. The Freesia doesn't shout for attention, it just exists, and its beautiful essence does all the work. In the natural world, fragrance has a really practical purpose. It's there to attract pollinators, to extend the plant's influence way beyond its own physical leaves and petals. And the spiritual parallel here is just so powerful. It's a picture of a life whose positive impact is felt far beyond what anyone can see them physically do. Of course, this kind of thriving doesn't just happen by accident. It needs the right conditions. The Freesia literally leans toward the light. It has to have soil that drains well. It can't survive if it's waterlogged and bogged down. It thrives in this intentional balance, not in extremes. And wow, what a metaphor for the kinds of conditions we need to create for our own growth. So this brings us to the big takeaway, the personal reflection. A life of fragrance. How do we take this amazing story from nature and actually apply it to our own lives? The whole thing really boils down to this one question, doesn't it? How do we live a life that carries its own fragrance, an essence of, say, peace or joy or integrity that enters a room long before we do, that speaks for us before we ever open our mouths? And the answer isn't about striving harder or being louder or trying to be something you're not. No, the invitation is much simpler. It's just to become what you were designed to be. It's about being rooted deeply, doing that unseen work, growing steadily through the process, and then just opening up gradually when the time is right. And we'll end on this final crucial point. It's really more of a promise. Just focus on the foundation. Tend to what's happening beneath the surface in the dark, because when the root is right, the fragrance will follow. It always does.